everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Women's Soccer Show, episode 12. Can you believe it, Sarah?
Sometimes I can and sometimes I can't.
Okay, for everyone at home, what Sarah was supposed to say was, I can't believe it! Time's flown, I'm having so much fun with you, Helen.
Sometimes it drags and sometimes it flies, you know.
Okay, thank you. Still, you're digging further and further into this hole. Do you know what I'm really excited about? And I just going to put it out there. And, you know, I'm not this soppy person, but I'm just going to say it. So we're coming to the end of, like, the first phase of our sort of COVID lockdown situation, going back to a normal world. It's going to be a while, but I feel like I'm, like, a few millisteps closer to flying to New York and having the best night out with you ever.
I look forward to that so much, Helen. Like, I just know we're going to sit in a bar for like 8-10 hours and just talk. Just like, wait, I know what you call it. Chinwag.
Chinwag.
We're just gonna chinwag for 10 hours.
Do you know that Sarah has got a section in her phone where she writes down words that I say? Because I do use quite a lot of British phrases. Who knew before I was like your mate? I use loads of British phrases, so you've got them written down, haven't you? And you learn from them.
I do. I've got a little notes app, and it's titled British Slang from Helen.
Give us a little rendition.
Okay, we've got gridlocked. Now, we use that in terms of traffic, but you use that in terms of, like,
workload.
Yeah, that was strange.
Yeah, and I didn't know why because you replied to me. I said, mate, I'm absolutely gridlocked. And you said, where? And I was like, what? In my office. Like, oh,
she's stuck in traffic somewhere. I don't know where.
I just love it. And, like, I feel like it just shows that you're trying to learn the language, and that makes me proud. You're learning English.
I'm putting in effort. What I really appreciate is that being from the United States, if I put in any small amount of effort to learn somebody else's language, they think it's really great because they just expect me to be like this selfish American who doesn't give a shit.
We'll start to get messages about not talking football early enough in the show, so we probably should move into the main content of the show, Sarah.
I would say so. What I'm very excited about because we got some Champions League, lots of Champions League to talk about. A bet that we placed on the Champions League together to talk about.
You're looking forward to that.
I'm very much looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to talking about your girls, your gals, Man City, and how you were forced into a very ethical conundrum this week.
There wasn't much ethics about it. It was, okay, we're playing a better team. Maybe that's a really good place to start. So Champions League, first leg, happened during the week. Probably the biggest shock for most people, because most people don't watch the Spanish league, is Manchester City versus Barcelona. I was shocked at the sheer scoreline of 3-0, but I wasn't shocked at the ability of Barcelona. I think that it may have taken Manchester City a little bit by surprise, but should we break it down a little bit?
I do want to say before we break it down that we were in communication during this game. Helen's looking very sheepish right now, like she knows what I'm going to say. And while Helen had bet that Barca was going to win, she picked Barca to win the Champions League overall, not just this leg. Helen was still desperately pulling for City. She was rooting against her own bet, and that is how much she loves Man City. So now that I've said that, let's jump into the game.
Oh God, I hate you so much. Okay, I feel like we spoke about it a lot, and it harked back to a game I saw at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City played Man United back in 2019, and City kept trying to play it out from the back, like the City style of play. And you actually noted it, Sarah, didn't you? They were really playing the City style of play, and it just wasn't working in that situation. Do you want to delve a bit more into what you meant?
Yeah, Barcelona was high pressing them, and they were taking off a lot of the short range pass options. And instead of changing their game plan to not play into that, City was just trying to force the issue. It was like they were holding on to something and just wouldn't let go of it, even though it wasn't good for them. So what was happening was Barca was high pressing. City was still trying to find the short pass out, which wasn't there, because when somebody's high pressing, the pass out is either quick small ones, which wasn't happening, or the long ball, and they refused to play the long ball. So they just kept losing it in their defensive third, which then in turn puts more pressure on their defense. And what happened was Barca just controlled the game in City's defensive third, literally through the high press and because City refused to change the way they were playing.
Yeah, I think that's spot on, to be honest. Like,
you're sounding very defeated right now.
I'm not one of these, like, I told you so kind of people. I'm really not. But I'm, like, Barcelona would have gone into this game really well prepared. But also, this isn't a team that concede goals. So you do have to be incredibly organised to be able to score a goal against them. It's just one of those things. One thing that I really loved is Total Football Analysis, who obviously are our partners. They did an amazing piece on this game where they did their analysis, their detailed analysis of this game. Remember, guys, you can actually get a year's subscription for €10, is it? Mm-hmm. With the code WOSO10. I have access because I'm not going to lie, I'm on the WOSO show, so I get free access. Oh, yeah. But they did some amazing analysis of this game.
Yeah, it was absolutely incredible. It was a really long article. They broke down everything that happened from Barca's offense to Barca's defense to City's offense to City's defense, what the changes that made tactically were and how that impacted the game. So really recommend you go and check that out. We posted it on our socials and we'll repost it so it's kind of at the top when this episode drops so everybody can go check that out. But with that said, just to dive into a little bit of what they highlighted, because I think that they pulled out some really, really great tactics from both sides to highlight. So both sides started in a 4-4-1-1, otherwise known as a 4-5-1, depending on how you want to look at it. I think an important thing to note from this is that both of these teams have such strong benches. And as we get deeper into the season, in the league or in the Champions League, that's just going to be the team that wins the games. These schedules are so grueling.
One thing that they noted was that City have a lot of speed in their squad, so Barcelona probably went in knowing that. So they needed to ensure that they kept control of the game to ensure that Manchester City had as few opportunities to attack and throw the ball into that space for Lauren Hemp and the like to get onto.
Yeah, and speaking of their formation, in a 4-5-1, which is what both sides were playing, but specifically looking at Barca's 4-5-1, what they were able to do is push their outside backs, because in the 4-5-1, they were having 2 holding center mids and then 3 attacking players sitting above them. So there was space for those outside backs to push up. And when that happened, it was overloading the wings for City. Now, City, on the other hand, was very condensed centrally on defense. They weren't shifting all the way to the line on either side, which usually you'll see the whole formation. If the ball is on the right side, for example, the entire formation will shift over and they'll just leave the weak side channel open. City wasn't doing that. They were condensed in the middle of the field, leaving both channels open. So the fact that Barca was able to play this 4-5-1, send their wings up wide and overload these channels was a really big reason why they were able to have control of the field. And along with that, our friends at Total Football Analysis called out Pateas. She plays in the holding center mid position for Barcelona, and her role in this game was really as a free roaming center midfielder. So we saw her over on the channel out wide. We saw her up on City's back line, and we even saw her filling in defensively at the left back position. And to have a center mid with that kind of ball control and that kind of vision, that's really how Barca was able to control this game.
Yeah, I think on top of all of the detailed analysis, I think the really obvious thing, just for anyone who's not who's just got a footballing eye, was just finishing your chances, which was just completely, highlighted by the penalty given to Manchester City, which was a key opportunity to get back into the game. People at Ellen White, I think I text you saying Ellen White doesn't miss that. Ellen White is missing that today. And I'm not trying to make up excuses for Manchester City. We've been saying on the Women's Soccer Show for weeks, both publicly and months, I'm going to say, actually, when the Champions League was kind of coming in, we were saying, Barcelona are ridiculous. We've been saying this team are insane. And I actually think that as much as Manchester City did struggle in this game and they didn't put away their chances and people like Ellen White just weren't on form. I think there's one where she's in the box and she skies it and you just think Ellen doesn't do that. They miss a penalty, of course. As much as that happened, I also think on the other hand, Barcelona are just incredible. I just think we just all have to accept that now. It is just the way it is. We've posted the link on our socials, but for more detail and analysis on why Barcelona are a surefire bet to win the Champions League this season, go on to that Total Football Analysis document, because they've obviously got an incredible coach as well, and they're able to analyse oppositions really comfortably, and then went back to their league games this weekend and dominated again. They've got 100 goal difference this weekend,
which we will come on to. Before we move on from City Barcelona, I do want to ask you, just in terms of people talking in excuses for City. How much of a role do you think not having Steph Horton played in this game?
I think what Steph Horton brings is the control of her back line. She's a leader through and through. She's the captain of her club and her country and an amazing human being. As a player, they brought in Dahlkemper, in January, and they were already winning games without her. So they have those centre-back options. If I recall, did they play Greenwood in that centre-back position? Yeah, interesting decision. Obviously, that's what happens when you get into these later stages in the season. You have to start utilising players that are maybe slightly out of position and stuff. For me, their issue wasn't necessarily their backline or the organisation of their backline. They were just dominated down those wings, as you say, and world-class goals, absolute world-class goals. The Hermoso goal at the end, Ashwala was incredible. Sorry to just put that in there, but oh my flipping Nora, these are players that we don't mention week on week. These Barcelona players, they're some of the best players in the world, and some of the average women's football fan might not even have heard their name before. What about the other games? What did you think of Lyon PSG? Are we gonna talk about what happened to me?
We're definitely gonna talk about what happened to you. So for those of you who didn't hear the episode last week, or for those of you who did, who need a little recap, we started a new bet for us, where starting with on the first leg of these quarterfinals, we were going to bet on every single game. So just the winners, not scores, and we're going to keep tabs on who picks the most games correctly. So as a little recap, I picked Lyon, Barca, Chelsea, and Bayern to win. Helen picked PSG, Barca, Chelsea, and Bayern. So we only differed by the Lyon PSG game. And lo and behold, Lyon beats PSG 1-0. PSG and Lyon are so evenly matched. You really can't say one is better than the other. I do think that, we can come on to the penalty. It was lucky that that's how it ended. But I do think that partially what happened is, frankly, what I was thinking, that PSG had already beat Lyon. It's hard to beat them twice in a row. And Lyon, this is a very familiar setting for them, and they just knew how to put it away. They knew how to finish, and that's what happened. And literally anything can happen in this coming week.
Yeah, I think that I'm going to, for this week, if we're going for it, I think I'm going to stick with my gals, and I'm going to say PSG to win the next leg away at Lyon. But can I also just add, and I know we've just gone over it slightly, is everyone kind of okay now accepting that Lyon aren't the team they were last season? Are we all okay? We all we're agreeing. Thank you.
This is Helen's revenge episode. She's like, I told you so about Barcelona. I told you so about PSG. I told you so about Lyon.
I did tell you also. No, but I think that I'm going to stick with my gals. Are you going to stick with your gals over at Lyon? You're probably going to be right this week. I think Lyon might actually win this. God damn it.
Actually, no, I'm picking PSG. I think it might be the same scoreline flipped. I know we're not picking scorelines, but I really do think it'll be PSG 1-0.
Oh, and then into extra time. And then penalties.
Yeah, I think so.
I really thought that PSG would win this just on the revenge front, but I feel like Lyon are really good at being ahead. That's one of their biggest strengths, and that's just through generations of being world beaters. So I just think it's one of those things where, because they're 1-0 ahead, they'll be going into it going, we're 1-0 ahead, we've got the advantage, we're at home. But I've got to stick with PSG now. I've put my ass on the line, so I've got to stick with them,
I love it.
Controversially, and just because I feel like being difficult and just being whatever, I'm going to go with a Wolfsburg win this week, because Chelsea beat Wolfsburg 2-1. Chelsea were quite comfortable in the end, but if I'm going to gamble, I'm going to put all my money on one colour, let's do it. Whew! I'm putting my chips on Wolfsburg, and I think Chelsea were going to win, but whatever.
Let's go. Yeah, I'm taking Chelsea. Not much to cover in this game. I think Chelsea were lucky to skate through with a 2-1 win. Everybody thought this would be a bit more of an easy takedown for Chelsea, if you will. And it wasn't. Wolfsburg is up for the challenge, and they very well could upset Chelsea. That wouldn't be hugely shocking. Nonetheless, I'm taking Chelsea for next week. Moving into Bayern versus Rosengard. Bayern handily just handled Rosengard 3-0 last week. We had both picked Bayern. Who you got coming up this week, Helen?
Bayern.
Yeah, you got it.
Rosengard are a brilliant Swedish team with plenty of history and a real European history to them as a club. I know loads of women's players came through that Sweden team, so it's absolutely no disrespect to them. But Bayern are the underdogs of this tournament, along with Barca, I would say. So yeah, I think it's going to be a Bayern win. Maybe not as comfortable because they might rest some players, and it's really hotting up in the leagues as well that they're playing in. So teams might want to start to rest people up.
So final one, we covered this week's. We didn't cover next week. Who do you have in Barca versus City next week? Who's taking it?
I'm really sorry. I love you. I love you guys. I think Barcelona will win the game or draw the game 0-0 or win 1-0. I don't think it'll be as comfortable this time around, but obviously then that'll see them go through on aggregate 4-5-0 potentially.
I have Barca for sure next week, but I actually do see them conceding a goal. I still think that they'll take the win in the second leg and overall be very comfortable in the scoreline.
Guys, we will try and sneak up some like sneaky magicky links if we see them or if we come upon them, because it's so hard to access these games. It's the Champions League freaking quarterfinals. Like, what world are we living in? This is wildness. I
mean, I know this is going to be a bit of a theme of this episode, but it's absolutely worth touching on. This is the Champions League quarterfinals, and I had to subscribe to a 30-day free trial for City
Who's
Plus.
the City fan now?
I'm now on City Plus's mailing list because nobody would show this game on cable or even on a stream that I can access. So just to watch the Champions League quarterfinal, that's what I had to do. It's just really upsetting. These are fantastic games. These are the most competitive games and teams in the world for women's soccer right now, and they should be given more coverage.
Shall we go around the world?
Let's do it.
Around the world, around the world. I've done my Shakira version.
In the Spanish Primera División, Barcelona didn't drop the ball following their big win against City midweek with a 4-0 battering against 8th place Sevilla. Last week, Levante beat Madrid 2-1, but they're still hot on the tails of second place glory. Barcelona have won 21 out of 21 games now, hot, and still sit at the top of the table, and now have a goal difference of 100.
I've never heard of that in all of my days. 100 goal difference, as in they've scored more than 100 goals because they've conceded 3 goals. So they've scored 103 goals in 21 games.
Unbelievable.
Shut up if they're not one of the best teams in Europe.
I don't know what's more impressive, if they've scored 103 goals or if they've only conceded 3. Like, that's very impressive.
Crazy stuff. Over in the Italian Serie A, the top 3 teams kept their cushion at the top of the table by destroying their opponents. First place Juve destroyed Bari 9-1. Sassuolo won 5-1 and Milan won 4-1. I'm sorry, we always talk about me supporting Man City, but evidently my team is Sassuolo.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm going to get you a jersey.
Yeah, oh my God, like seriously, 100%.
La Liga MX Femenil in Mexico is one of those leagues where you just don't know which way the wind will blow, and this is why we love talking about it every week. Today, it was time for Atlas to drop the ball and suffer a loss, which sees them fall into 3rd place after all the teams around them won their games. They lost 2-1 against Toluca, and all 3 goals were scored in the first 20 minutes. Wow. In the final seconds, they nearly had another blow to their scoreline, but Toluca missed a penalty. Thank goodness. First place Tigres and 5th place Pumas, aka UNAM, only sit 4 points apart, so it's really all still winnable for those 5 clubs in the top 5.
It's wild.
Top 5, wow.
Every team is still looking at first place. You can be 5th in that league and be like, I can win this league still. And they've played 17 fixtures. It's wild.
I love it. We love an evenly matched top of the table battle.
Oh, I love it so much. French Division 1 Feminine sees those 2 giants matching each other stride for stride. Lyon and PSG both won their away games 3-0 this weekend, which sees them 1 point apart. I mean, we keep saying this, I'm like a broken record. 1 point apart at the top of the table. And they're 10 points ahead of everyone else in that table. So it is essentially a PSG versus Lyon battle for the title. Le Havre, on the other hand, have only won 1 out of 17 games this season. So it's almost certain now that they are going to be relegated from the division. It doesn't seem to be really a way out of that for them. Champions League, second leg, as we already said, is going to be Wednesday. So we can't wait to report back on that next week. We will obviously give you the full down low. And fingers crossed, I'm right about something and I can catch up on points because I'm losing 4-3 now in that little competition.
Yes, you are.
We will join you after this quick advert break.
Have you checked out Total Football Analysis yet? TotalFootballAnalysis.com provides researched analysis on loads of football games, including women's football. Want to know why Miedemar scores so many goals? Do you want to explore how City have turned it around this season? Head over to totalfootballanalysis.com and sign up to learn more about the beautiful game. We have a special discount for listeners of the Women's Soccer Show. At checkout, type WOSO10 to get a full year for €10. That's €40 off the yearly subscription. Head over to totalfootballanalysis.com and type WOSO10 at checkout.
All right. We're almost there.
We're on a roll, mofos. I mean, I know that this wasn't probably top of the WSL billing this week, but I'm going to talk about City versus Reading first.
I actually think it might be because it was a shocking scoreline, to be honest. And the fact that last goal, City's goal, came in, the 87th, 88th minute? Shocking.
I thought it was a really thrilling game, and I actually really enjoyed Reading's performance in it. Man City, for such a team with such firepower, I just find it so crazy how many opportunities they're squandering at the moment. The highlight, though, of the entire 90 minutes was that the camera people just kept flashing the camera over to Steph Horton in the stands. And she was basically playing the game, like heading every ball. She was like furious.
That's hilarious.
You could see she was shouting, and I think they kept having to apologize, like, "We're sorry if you overheard that swearing on the camera."
That's my favorite part of no fans in the stadium. I just love hearing what they're saying. Like a bad call, and they're like, "Bullshit."
Can't wait for the NWSL for that. Are they gonna have fans in the stadium for the NWSL?
I don't know. I actually think in some stadiums, but not all. I actually don't know.
Oh my god, I literally can't wait. If there's no fans, I just love the thought of like Rapinoe being like, "That is a joke." So my big sort of standout thing from this game was 2 words: Lauren Hemp. She is ridiculous. She obviously creates the goal, skips through defenders. I can't even count how many, maybe 3, maybe 4. She gives a small, perfectly timed cross for Chloe Kelly. Chloe Kelly just has to put her body behind it, buries it, and that's in the dying minutes of the game. But this wasn't like Lauren Hemp's just one moment of glory. She was doing that throughout the game. She was just like dancing through defenders and putting crosses into the box. And actually, it was just a lack of clinicalness that meant Manchester City hadn't scored earlier in the game. I also think there was one point where I think that it should have been a penalty, but Lauren Hemp decided not to go down. She tried to scramble back up to try and put a shot away. And again, it was one of those things. She just danced between defenders, and then she was dragged down. And then there was another one in the sort of 80th minute where the ball's crossed in. Lauren Hemp, they just are on top of her because she's just so ridiculous. And then coming out of the game, I knew she was good, but then I saw a stat which said that her goals and her assists over the last 9 games are only matched in terms of like 9 games by Leo Messi in the history of football. So goals and assists in the last 9 games, she has been, I think, 6 goals, 5 assists, something ridiculous like that. She's just unbelievable. She's the player of the moment. And for me, this week has cemented her place in that GB starting lineup for the Olympics. But I will say, Reading were really decisive. So much experience in that team. And they looked really threatening on the counter-attack. And it wasn't just, defend. They did create as well. And they brought in Danielle Carter, which was good to see. I think if they could be more decisive from game to game and, more clinical game to game, they could compete for the Champions League spots in seasons to come. Genuinely, it sounds like crazy, but especially as the non-Premier League team in this WSL, they haven't got the financial backing, but they're a really decent team. Why do we not see this Reading every week? Where is their consistency week to week? It's absolutely crazy.
That's been their issue week to week.
Wild. Let's go over to Man U versus West Ham.
I mean, so amazing to see a game at Old Trafford. First time for the Man U women, but just not played on television anywhere.
Wild.
What's the point?
I know.
I don't really understand. Casey Stoney made some comments about it, just saying it was really disappointing. Yeah, nothing much more to say about that, so let's dive into the game, I suppose. Just crazy.
West Ham played really well. Now we're entering desperation times of the season for West Ham.
Absolutely. I would say out of everybody at the bottom of the table, they are in the most desperate of moments.
Yeah, they had some real amazing early opportunities, and I can't for the life of me work out if Manchester United are having a really bad period at the moment with injuries and everything, or if West Ham really stepped it up, but they were creating a lot. They were leaving defenders behind and having shots on target, and it was etchy sketchy for the first like 10-15 minutes for Manchester United. I really thought they're going to have a humiliating defeat at Old Trafford. What the heck?
Absolutely.
And then Lauren James, she stepped up like she always does.
Yep, she stepped up. She took advantage of a set piece from a ball that kept bobbling around in the area, and she just headed it right in. We're not 100% convinced that it wasn't offsides.
I mean, they're at Old Trafford. How would the camera's angles not be able... Like, you're at Old Trafford. The one benefit to playing at Old Trafford, watching on the FA Player, is that they can have good camera angles. I was like, why are there no camera angles of this? They literally just showed it from behind, but it looked a little bit like maybe Gilly Flatty, he played her onside, but not 100% convinced it was onside. Anyway.
Nonetheless, the second goal was pretty decisive. Gronin's assist for the second goal was so beautiful. Delicately placed through all the defenders.
Also, Kristen Press, your gal, like, you just always want her to be the one putting the ball away, and she had a brilliant game. She nearly scored an absolute wonder goal as well. I have no idea. To this day, I've like rewatched the footage as well. No idea where Vetteline got sent off in the dying minutes for West Ham. Sorry if I've missed something. Someone's going to write to me online like, you missed the fact she punched her in the face, but I just didn't.
Well, let us know if we did.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's disappointing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Man U comes away with the 2-0 win. Scoreline pretty much telling of how the game went. What do you think, Helen?
Yeah, I agree. Man U were the stronger team. West Ham just ended up, unfortunately, it became a bit of a damp squib for them.
A damp squib, love it. Moving into Everton and Brighton. 5-0 to Everton with Haley Lasso playing a huge role. Unfortunately, Helen had to tell me that because I could not watch this game. I tried every legal way I could possibly try to find it, and it was not being streamed here in the United States anywhere where I could find it. And it's just so disappointing when this happens over and over again. And it's just so simple. I feel like that I can't understand it and why I constantly wake up to watch games and can't watch them legally or illegally. It's just extremely disappointing. I'm wanting to give my viewership, and you're making it hard for me to support something that I want to support. And then they turn around and ask why there's no viewership for women's sports. And it's like, well, because I quite literally couldn't view it.
You have to create the space for us to actually like enter the room. Like I just cannot for the life of me fathom it. And this is a worldwide problem. This isn't a WSL problem. We just got this deal and stuff. Not. But this is a worldwide problem. Like the NWSL jerseys not being available in the UK. Sorry, I'm like talking shop a little bit, but the NWSL jerseys, you can't get them in the UK. How can I support Portland Thorns in the way I want to support them when I can't buy a shirt? Like, I just want a freaking shirt, okay? Okay, that's a different issue for a different day. But it's the same sort of thing. Make it accessible, guys. Over in North London, it was a comfortable 3-0 for Arsenal. They always seem to get a bit of a cheeky 3-0 against Spurs. However, it was comfortable. Nothing really more to say about it. It's really good to see Spurs coming up through the ranks. They've stayed in the WSL this season. I genuinely feel like that game will become juicier as the years go by. Like Spurs, I think... You know, the women train on their campus with the on the guys' campus. I really feel like they want to make a thing of this. They want to make this work. So
I agree.
I'm excited for that fixture.
Climb. Yeah, I think we're seeing a steady climb for Tottenham. Bristol's tie to Birmingham puts them in 10th place. They are now 2 spots above the relegation spots. We've got West Ham in 12th, Aston Villa in 11th, and Bristol City in 10th. Mind you, only 2 points separate Bristol in 10th and West Ham in 9th, but that is absolutely wild that we're talking about Bristol City sitting 2 spots above the relegation right now.
For me, the talking point of this season is Bristol City. Like, this is not a thing. You don't go into the February part of the season, having played the majority of the season, rock bottom with 1 win, and then start pulling out points, you know, from the big guns and go to a final. Like,
I mean, they were for sure going to be relegated.
Yeah,
just kidding, guys. Let's make it a race at the bottom.
They were like, this'll be fun.
Yeah,
should we start winning now? And the last one, which we never usually put last, but, you know, it wasn't a huge shock, but you do want to slightly touch on it. Chelsea won 2-0 against Aston Villa. Aston Villa put up a good fight.
They put up a good fight. They really did. You know, Chelsea put some 2 beautiful goals away, both of them belonging to Sam Kerr, who's playing just wonderfully recently.
Yeah.
I've always said she was playing wonderfully, for the record, because that's my girl.
You girl.
But she, you know, it just seems like she's starting to even just meld even more and develop connections with teammates more. And the more those connections start to happen, and boy, that's dangerous.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, Aston Villa, they put up a really good fight, not just defensively. They were connecting the ball. They were dangerous at times on offense. So really good fight there from Aston Villa. I do want to note, I think that we're seeing some lower score lines. For example, I would have expected the scoreline Chelsea-Aston Villa to be a little bit wider of a gap. I would have expected the City-Reading game to be a little bit wider of a gap. And I do think that we're starting to see these closer games because of the schedules that's weighing on these teams at the top. Chelsea and Man City, like you mentioned, Helen, they're playing a lot of games right now. And it helps that they've got a deep bench full of a lot of players that would start on any other roster. But it's weighing on them, and I think we can keep that in mind in the final weeks of the WSL. I think that could maybe play a role in some results we're seeing.
Yeah, I completely agree. But then also, you were talking about last week how by that stage of the season, I think we were talking offline about it. That stage of the season, it'll be pretty much a done deal by the time we get to the final weeks of this WSL. We'll know who the winner's going to be. I don't think we will.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you're right. And this is just pointing to the City-Chelsea game becoming increasingly more and more important. Don't forget, everybody, we're live streaming for that. Instagram Live, mark your calendars, April 25th, everybody.
I am so going to get drunk before going on just so that I can actually cope with it. Yeah, I can't wait for that. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Let's make sure that we keep everyone up to date this week with the links to games if we can for the Champions League, so as many people can watch it as possible.
Absolutely.
If they ain't going to make it accessible, we will make it illegally accessible.
We will do it.
Yes, we will.
You heard it here, but if anybody asks, you didn't hear it here.
Yeah, okay, we didn't. That wasn't us. What? Someone's hacked our Twitter account and posted links. We didn't do that.
Also, reminder that the NWSL starts on April 9th, which is coming up. That's in less than 2 weeks, everybody. It's really coming up. We're almost in April, so...
Can't wait. We're going to try and cover that as much as we possibly can. Yeah, really looking forward to it. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Women's Soccer Show. I've been Helen.
I've been Sarah. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.